The day that was supposed to be the happiest day of her life felt like a heavy weight on her shoulders. Lyra, the alien bride, stood at the altar, feeling the intense pressure of the moment. Her lavender-colored skin shimmered under the bright lights, and the golden markings that ran across her body seemed to pulse with every heartbeat. Yet, despite the beauty and grandeur of the ceremony, she felt an overwhelming sense of unease. The space around her was magnificent, a fusion of futuristic and traditional wedding elements, set in a grand hall. The ethereal glow from the shimmering ceiling lights contrasted against the bustling excitement of the guests, who were watching her every move. The air was filled with whispers, the soft hum of machines, and the occasional burst of laughter from the guests. But for Lyra, it all seemed distant, almost surreal. She looked down at the intricate wedding dress, a silver and purple gown designed to complement her otherworldly appearance. The fabric was unlike anything human eyes had seen before, woven from threads of iridescent materials. It shimmered like starlight. The dress hugged her slender figure, accentuating the alien elegance she had always been so proud of. But today, none of that mattered. Today, her insecurities overshadowed her beauty. Her thoughts were clouded, tangled in uncertainty. This wedding was a union between two different worlds, and though she had always believed in love, something deep within her heart felt unsettled. She couldn't help but wonder, do I truly belong here? Her mind raced through doubts she had tried to suppress. She was an alien, an outsider. How could a human, her groom, possibly understand the complexities of her existence, her history, her fears? As she stood at the altar, with her hands nervously clutching the bouquet of glowing flowers, Lyra's heart seemed to beat faster and faster. Her breaths came shallow, and her chest felt tight. Every passing second felt like an eternity. Her eyes glanced over to her groom Marcus. He was standing across from her, looking handsome and calm, wearing a simple but elegant black suit. His dark hair was neatly combed, and his eyes were filled with affection. But it was that very affection that made her question her worth. The guests, an odd mix of humans and a few alien dignitaries from various worlds, seemed to be watching her every move. She could feel their eyes on her, their expectations. They were all waiting for her to say the vows, to commit to the life ahead. Yet the weight of the moment felt unbearable. The more she looked at Marcus, the more she doubted herself. Would he truly be able to accept me as I am? It wasn't just the fear of the unknown that scared her. It was also the fear of the familiar. She had always known she was different. Her alien heritage marked her in ways humans couldn't understand. How could she, a creature from a distant planet, truly be a part of his world? Would she be able to fit into his life? Would they ever find a way to bridge the gap between their two very different cultures? Her thoughts were interrupted by the sound of the wedding officiant's voice, calling for her attention. The ceremony had begun, and her gaze shifted back to Marcus. He smiled at her, but she didn't return it. Instead, her mind drifted back to the past, to her upbringing on the homeworld of her species. There, she had been raised with the knowledge that her people were different. They had always been the outsiders, the mysterious beings who came from far away. She had been taught to embrace her differences, to carry them with pride. But now, standing in front of her human groom, those differences felt more like a burden. Her hand trembled slightly as she reached for the ring, ready to place it on Marcus's finger. But the weight of the moment seemed too much to bear. She swallowed hard, trying to steady her breath. But the more she tried to calm herself, the more the doubts grew. What if this is a mistake? What if I'm not strong enough to face the life ahead with him? She looked back at Marcus once more, and for the briefest moment, the uncertainty clouding her mind seemed to dissipate. In his eyes, there was only love. It wasn't just the surface-level affection, it was deeper. She could feel it, even in the air between them. There was a bond, a connection that couldn't be easily broken by the vastness of the universe or the differences between their species. But could she accept that? Could she let go of her fear and truly trust in their love? In that moment, as the officiant's voice faded into the background and the guests remained silent, Lyra closed her eyes for a second, taking a deep breath. "It's okay," she told herself. "I have to do this." With a shaky hand, she placed the ring on Marcus's finger, and when she looked up at him again, something had shifted. The uncertainty still lingered, but now there was a glimmer of hope. Maybe this is the start of something beautiful. Her heart steadied, just for a moment, as the ceremony continued. Yet, as she looked at her groom, she realized that despite all the doubts, the one thing she knew for sure was that she wasn't alone. He was there, standing beside her, ready to face the challenges ahead, together. The silence in the room was thick with anticipation as Lyra stood at the altar, her breath still shallow from the weight of the doubts that had been circling her mind. The guests, some familiar with her alien heritage and others from the human world, watched quietly. But for Lyra, it felt as though the world had faded away, leaving only the anxious racing of her heart. She couldn't stop her mind from wandering back to the thoughts that had plagued her since the moment she arrived at the ceremony. Do I belong here? Can I truly be happy in this world? It wasn't just the differences in culture, appearance, and history that weighed on her heart. It was the fear that she might never fit into Marcus's world. Her alien background made her feel like an outsider, even though Marcus had always made her feel welcome. But today, standing here, she couldn't shake the feeling that she might not be enough. She could feel the eyes of the crowd on her, the expectations heavy in the air. The officiant's words had blurred into the background as she looked at Marcus, who was standing across from her, waiting for her to respond. He had always been her rock, her steady force, the one who had promised to love her no matter what. But now, in this moment of vulnerability, she wasn't sure if she could accept his love fully. Then, as if sensing her inner turmoil, Marcus reached out and gently took her hand. The simple touch of his fingers was enough to break the spell of uncertainty that had enveloped her. His hands were warm, comforting, and as their palms met, Lyra felt a rush of emotion flood through her. He didn't say anything at first, just held her hand with a tenderness that made her heart flutter. His gaze never wavered, and Lyra could see the same steady love in his eyes that had always been there, even during the most difficult times. He squeezed her hand softly, and that simple gesture spoke volumes. "Lyra," he finally spoke, his voice calm but firm. "I know what you're feeling right now, and I need you to listen to me, because what I'm about to say is something that comes from the very core of my being. I know we come from different worlds, from different places in the universe, but that doesn't change how I feel about you. It never will." His words were like a soothing balm to her raw, restless heart. She didn't have to ask for reassurance. It was there, in every word, in every action he took. He wasn't just saying the words to calm her. He was saying them because he meant them, because he truly believed in the promise he was making. "I know you're scared," he continued, his thumb brushing lightly over the back of her hand. "I know you're worried about whether you'll ever truly belong here, in my world, with me. But I want you to know, right here, right now, that you have a place with me, always. No matter where we go, no matter what challenges we face, I will always be here for you. You are not alone. You've never been alone." Lyra's breath hitched as she absorbed his words. He was offering her something she had been desperately searching for, a place where she could be herself, no matter how different she felt. His love, his unwavering belief in their future together, was the anchor she needed. "You are my world, Lyra," Marcus said, his voice growing softer, but no less sincere. "And I promise you, I will never let you feel like an outsider. Not in this marriage, not in my life. You are more than enough for me. You are everything I've ever wanted, and I will spend every day proving that to you. You'll see the life we build together will be stronger than any difference, any fear. Our love will be the thing that binds us, no matter the distance between the stars or the obstacles in our way." Tears welled up in Lyra's eyes, but they weren't the tears of doubt and uncertainty that had plagued her moments before. These were tears of relief, of deep gratitude. For the first time in what felt like forever, she allowed herself to truly believe in his words. She could feel the sincerity of his promise. It wasn't just an empty vow. It was a commitment that came from the deepest parts of his soul. The guests watched in silence as Marcus gently cupped her face in his hands, his touch tender and reassuring. He leaned in, his forehead resting lightly against hers. His breath was warm against her skin, and in that moment, everything else faded away. The doubts, the fears, the questions, they all dissolved into the love and comfort that surrounded them. "I'm not going anywhere, Lyra," Marcus whispered, his voice barely audible now, as though the words were meant just for her. "We're in this together, always." The weight that had been pressing down on Lyra's heart lightened, and for the first time that day, she felt a sense of peace. The future still seemed uncertain, but with Marcus by her side, she no longer felt like she was walking into it alone. His love was a shield that could protect her, and together they could face whatever challenges came their way. As she looked into his eyes, Lyra finally allowed herself to smile. It wasn't a smile filled with uncertainty or fear. It was a smile of hope, of trust. And in that smile, she silently vowed to embrace the journey ahead, to accept the love Marcus was offering her with an open heart. She wasn't alone. She never would be again. And with that, the ceremony continued, not as a simple union of two beings from different worlds, but as a powerful promise of love that would transcend all boundaries. The ceremony was nearing its climax, the air heavy with anticipation. Lyra stood at the altar, still holding Marcus's hand, her heart now beating at a steadier pace. The doubts that had plagued her just moments before had begun to fade, replaced by a sense of peace, but there was still something lingering. The world around her seemed to blur as she focused entirely on Marcus, who stood beside her, looking at her with nothing but affection and warmth. She had to admit, his words had begun to sink in. He had promised to be there for her, to love her no matter the differences between their worlds. Yet, deep down, there was a fear that remained. Could she truly accept this love? Was she worthy of it? Could a simple human like Marcus ever fully understand the alien part of her, the part that longed for connection, but struggled to find a place in the world she now found herself in? The officiant's voice broke through her thoughts, signaling that the vows were about to be exchanged. Lyra's hands trembled again, not from fear, but from a deep internal struggle. She was at a crossroads. She could continue to live in the shadows of her fears, holding herself back, or she could step forward into the unknown, trusting in Marcus and the love he offered. Marcus could sense the shift in her. He could see the hesitation in her eyes, the small tremor in her body, and the way she was gripping his hand as though it were the only thing holding her to reality. He had been waiting for this moment, the moment when he would be able to say something that would change everything for both of them. As the officiant moved on to the final part of the ceremony, he looked down at Lyra, his gaze full of understanding. He leaned in closer to her, his voice soft, but filled with an undeniable strength. "Lyra, look at me." She did, her eyes meeting his. Her heart fluttered, and for the first time that day, she saw the depth of his feelings laid bare. There was no judgment in his eyes, no doubts, just love. Unwavering, pure love. "I know this moment is hard for you," Marcus said, his voice gentle but firm. "I know you're scared. I can see it in your eyes. But I want you to hear me now, and I want you to know that this is the truth. You are not just an alien to me. You are my everything. And if you've ever felt alone or uncertain about being with me, I need you to know that I will never, ever make you feel like you don't belong. You are more than enough for me. You are more than enough for this life, for this world. I choose you, Lyra, every part of you. The alien, the human, the warrior, the dreamer, all of you." The words hung in the air, vibrating with a power that was almost tangible. Lyra's breath caught in her throat, her heart racing once again, but this time with a new feeling, one she hadn't felt before. It wasn't fear. It wasn't doubt. It was something deeper, something that resonated with every fiber of her being. Trust. Marcus continued, his voice unwavering. This is our moment. This is the moment where we decide to leave behind all the fears and all the doubts, and we take a step forward together. I promise you, Lyra, I will be by your side no matter what. There is nothing, that can tear us apart. Not your past, not your world, not your heritage. You are mine, and I am yours. Forever. The words seemed to echo through the room, reverberating in her chest. She had heard many things in her life. Words of doubt, words of rejection, even words of hate. But what Marcus was saying to her now was different. His words didn't just reach her ears. They reached her soul, striking a chord so deep that it left her breathless. For the first time in years, Lyra allowed herself to feel something she had always avoided. Hope. Hope that maybe, just maybe, she could belong in this world. Hope that she didn't have to carry the weight of her alien nature alone. Hope that the love she felt for Marcus could transcend the boundaries that separated their worlds. As the officiant asked for the vows to be exchanged, Lyra looked at Marcus, her heart pounding in her chest. She knew what she had to do. She had to let go of her fears and accept his love fully, without hesitation. She opened her mouth to speak, but the words didn't come right away. She swallowed hard, gathering her courage. I believe you, she whispered, her voice trembling. I believe in us. It wasn't a grand declaration, but it was everything she needed to say. She had spoken the truth that had been hiding deep within her, the truth she had been too afraid to admit to herself. She believed in him. She believed in them. Marcus's face softened, and for a moment, everything around them faded away. There were no guests, no ceremony, just the two of them standing together in a moment that would change everything. I promise you, Marcus said, his voice barely above a whisper, you are my future. And there's no one else I would want by my side. The crowd watched silently as the vows were completed, but for Lyra and Marcus, the world had stopped. The only thing that mattered was the life they were about to begin together, a life filled with love, trust, and the promise of a future free from fear and doubt. And in that moment, everything changed. A life-changing word had been spoken, and with it, their future was sealed. Together, they would face whatever came next, no longer afraid, no longer uncertain, but certain of one thing. Their love would carry them through it all. The ceremony had officially ended, but the energy in the room still lingered. Lyra and Marcus stood together, surrounded by a sea of congratulatory smiles and applause. To the guests, it was a celebration of love, a moment of unity between two different worlds. But for Lyra, it was the beginning of something much more profound, a journey of acceptance, trust, and a promise for the future. But as the last of the guests began to disperse, Lyra's heart still raced. The doubts that had gripped her only hours before had vanished, replaced by a feeling she could not yet name. She stood next to Marcus, still holding his hand, her fingers entwined with his in a way that felt like a grounding force. But there was one thing that remained, the question that had lingered in her mind since the moment she agreed to this marriage. Can this love truly be enough? The vastness of the universe seemed to stretch out before them, reminding her of how vast their differences were. She, an alien from a faraway galaxy, and Marcus, a human from Earth. They came from worlds that were so far apart that even the stars between them seemed insignificant. Yet here they were, standing together as husband and wife. She felt like a part of her should still be asking if they could truly make it work. But then, Marcus did something unexpected. As the crowd began to thin and the final moments of the ceremony passed, he led her out of the grand hall and into a quiet, secluded garden at the edge of the estate. The air was cool and crisp, filled with the fragrance of blooming flowers that seemed to glow softly under the pale moonlight. Lyra followed him silently, her mind still swirling with thoughts of the future, but also with a quiet peace that she had never known before. Once they were alone in the garden, Marcus turned to face her. The smile on his face was not the one that had been present during the ceremony, but something softer, more intimate. It was a smile that spoke of understanding, of shared moments, and of a deep connection that had been formed in the most unexpected of places. "Lyra," Marcus said softly, his voice filled with tenderness. "There's something I need to tell you, something I didn't think was the right time to say earlier." Lyra looked at him curiously, her heart still fluttering in her chest. The trust she had placed in him was now so strong that it felt as though she could face anything that came their way. But this moment felt different. His words were laced with something more serious than before. "What is it?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Marcus took a step closer to her, his hands now holding her arms gently. "I've always known that loving you would be something special," he began. "But there's something about you that I didn't tell you before, something that you might not even know about yourself." Lyra's brow furrowed slightly, confused. "What do you mean?" Marcus took a deep breath before continuing. "When we first met, I could tell there was something extraordinary about you, something beyond just your beauty or your otherworldly grace. You're different, Lyra. You have a power inside you that even you don't fully understand yet. A power that connects all living beings, no matter where they come from." Lyra's eyes widened. "What are you talking about?" Before Marcus could say anything more, the air around them seemed to shift. The soft glow of the flowers in the garden flickered, and Lyra felt a strange sensation wash over her. It was as if the very air was charged with energy. She looked at Marcus, confusion clouding her thoughts. In that moment, Marcus spoke again, his voice filled with awe and wonder. "You're not just an alien, Lyra. You're a bridge between worlds. Your presence has the ability to unite us all. It's a gift that you've been carrying within you your entire life, even before we met." Lyra stared at him, still trying to comprehend what he was saying. A bridge between worlds. Marcus nodded, his eyes locked on hers. "Yes, Lyra. The love we share isn't just between two people. It's the beginning of something much bigger. You were meant to be here with me. We were meant to find each other, not just for our own happiness, but for something much greater. Your presence here is no accident." Lyra's heart raced as the weight of his words settled over her. She had always known she was different, but to think that she held within her the power to unite worlds, it was overwhelming. She had spent so long trying to hide from her alien nature, trying to distance herself from the part of her that felt like an outsider. But now, with Marcus by her side, she was beginning to understand that her uniqueness wasn't something to fear, it was something to embrace. As she stood there, surrounded by the soft glow of the flowers and the quiet night air, the truth of what Marcus was saying began to sink in. She wasn't just an alien bride. She wasn't just a creature from a distant galaxy. She was something more. And in Marcus's eyes, she saw it, a reflection of the love, hope, and possibility that stretched before them. The unexpected twist wasn't just that their love had united them. It was that their love had the power to change everything. Together, they could bridge the gap between their worlds, unite their peoples, and create a future where love could conquer all boundaries. In that moment, everything Lyra had ever feared seemed to dissolve. She wasn't alone. She wasn't an outsider. She was exactly where she was meant to be. Marcus smiled at her, his hands gently cupping her face as he whispered, "We're in this together, Lyra. Always." And with that, the two of them stood beneath the moonlit sky, ready to face whatever the future held. Because now together, they knew that nothing could ever tear them apart.